For those of you following our podcast, thank you. When we first decided to create a podcast a few months ago, it seemed daunting to say the least. Then we discovered Social Chameleon. They helped us get launched, created our trailer, edit our intros and outros and the audio for each episode, created the cover art for the show, write our episode show notes, and even do all of the distribution. This has allowed us to make the show available to you on the most popular podcast apps. So this is just a quick shout out to say thanks to Social Chameleon. Mills Knows Bills can focus on what we do and they handle the rest. With Social Chameleon, it's podcasting done for you. Feel free to check them out at socialchameleon.us. Hi, I'm Mills. Let me share a little about how I got here. I started my financial journey fall of 2014 when I found myself with only $1.50 to my name. So clearly, I understand the frustration around money mismanagement, struggling with where to start, and the courage it takes to take ownership of your finances. Now I'm a financial coach, speaker, author, and the founder and owner of Mills Knows Bills, where I have the opportunity to teach individuals and businesses how to manage and master their money within 90 days. On this podcast, I will teach you how to stop living paycheck to paycheck, how to pay off your debt twice as fast, and how to reach your financial goals. This podcast is meant to make managing your finances accessible. So if you find that your finances are controlling you, or you simply have no idea where to start, this is the place for you. Click the subscribe button and turn on your notifications to make sure you don't miss out on any new content. I appreciate you tuning in. Let's dive into today's topic. Hey everyone, today we have a special surprise. I know last week we had a special episode and this week we have another special. But for those of you that don't know, Mills Knows Bills is more than just Mills Bender now. We actually have another coach on our team. Her name is Steffany Medina, and she is a powerhouse. She's going to be creating a lot more content while I go on maternity leave, and as well as just making sure that y'all get to know her a little bit more as well. So today's podcast is actually going to be brought by Steffany, and it's a topic that a lot of us have been talking about recently. So I hope you take the moment to listen, enjoy. Be sure to give Steffany some extra love, and if you're interested in scheduling a time to talk with her, the link to connect with her will actually be in the description below. That's it. I hope you enjoy.
There is definitely a lot to consider when trying to plan for the financial future, especially when there are stats showing that in 2019, the average American household only had $65,000 in retirement, and that 25% of non-retirees don't even have a savings account. Now, oftentimes my clients come to me and they ask, Steffany, how can I make my money go further and plan for the future? And the great thing is that there are so many ways that we can make that happen. We're going to go ahead and focus on the types of investments and break down some of your burning questions regarding retirement and savings accounts. Now, let's get started. Question number 1, how can I see what my current investments will look like in the future? I love this question because it really shows you the beauty of the time value of money. The most effective way to see what your investments will look like in the future is with the use of a financial calculator. Now, you can go ahead and Google one, or you can use the link, but either way, I'll be breaking it down to its most important components. One of the first ones that you'll see is N, or the number of periods that you'll be putting your money aside each month, year, or maybe even bi-weekly. So in this specific scenario, I always like to go ahead and just do the factor of a monthly contribution. So if you're holding an account here for 10 years and contributing it to it every month or 12 months out of the year, then that would be 10 times 12, or an N of 120. The second component that you'll see here is IY. So that's going to be the interest rate per year. And that's going to really just depend on the type of investment that you are currently vested in. So if you're using the stock market, on average, stocks do grow overall at around 10% annually. So that's what I would put there in that specific scenario. And that's just factoring in, of course, that there are cycles. So that's not perfect, but we want to go ahead and make sure that we're thinking long term here. However, the certain sort of return on investment works for your specific account. The next thing that we're taking into consideration here is the present value, or the PV. And that's going to be any money that's currently in that account that is accruing interest and that you're adding monthly payments to. So if you've got an account of $2,000, make sure that you put that money into that PV amount on there and that it's positive, because it's already money that's sitting there in that account. The next thing that we take into consideration is the PMT, or the payments that you're going to actually be making or contributing to that account. So if you're putting aside $150 or even more towards an account, you would actually put in a negative PMT on there for that specific amount, since it's money that's coming out of your wallet, and that's going to factor into what your future value, or your FV, is going to calculate. Now, an insider tip is to make sure that your payments per year, or your PY, is actually set to 12. And that can be done in a little link that you click on there. It's like a little arrow button, and make sure that you drop it down and the PY will show up there for you. Now that you've got all of your components, you've got the hard numbers as to certain investments that you're wanting to put in, the amount that you're wanting to put in each month, and you roughly have an idea of the kind of return on investment or the interest rate that you'll be gaining on this investment, that FV will be calculated for you in a snap, and voila, you have the future value of your investments. Question number 2, how much should I be investing? Here at Mills Knows Bills, we like to go ahead and start with the end in mind. I know that sounds kind of strange, but once you've determined what your financial independence number, or FIN number, is, then we can actually work backwards from there. So if you plan on living in your same house, or retiring on a beach house somewhere, or traveling by the time that you've planned on using a retirement account or retirement savings, that's all really great to know, because it determines the kind of lifestyle that you want to be living. And we get to be pretty clear in the kind of goals that we have. Once we have a vision, then we can create a plan for that. And that just then becomes a lot more simple for us to follow along with. What I like to go ahead and do to actually have more concrete numbers as to how much you should start investing is to use that financial calculator like we discussed. So when you pull up your financial calculator, there's many different tabs. The one that we're going to focus on is actually the PMT tab. The way that we're going to go ahead and utilize this tool is, instead of trying to calculate what our future value is, we've already determined that by deciding what our financial independence number is. So if you want to retire on $3 million, that's fantastic. That's what you would put for that future value. But make sure that that number is actually negative, since you're planning on withdrawing that amount each month or by the time that you retire. The next thing that you're going to want to go ahead and do is break it down to those components, as we mentioned earlier. So N is going to be your number of periods between today and the date that you retire, times however many contributions you're planning on making monthly. And then you're going to go ahead and factor in your interest rate. So if this investment account is really focused on stocks or any sort of stock market, then I would still encourage you to put in that 10% annual interest rate on there. And then, of course, you do have your PV, or your present value, which is just going to be the amount of money that you have currently held in that account. When we calculate all of that, it's going to go ahead and make sure to give us a PMT, or how much we should be putting aside each month in terms of our payments or contributions that we can start with now. That's going to give us an idea of how to go ahead and structure the budget and what we should be putting aside each month to live out that future that we want during retirement. Question number 3. How can I pay less in taxes after I've increased my income or jumped into a new tax bracket? One of the best ways to go ahead and reduce your tax liability after having joined a higher income tax bracket or increasing your income through your business or your job is to contribute to your retirement accounts. So once you've gone ahead and contributed money into your 401k and you've got an increase, or you're thinking that you're going to be getting a bonus or a higher salary, I would recommend to go ahead and put in or max out your retirement accounts through your employer. Not only do you get the benefits of getting that matched, but you also go ahead and get the reduced tax liability for that income. Some other things to note is that if you still have some money that you want to set aside or that you would want to have less tax liability on, you can put that money into what's called a health savings account, or an HSA. They may also be interest bearing. So you can actually go ahead and oftentimes, it depends on the account, but you should be able to go ahead and utilize that money to invest as well, and it'll accrue over time. So that's another great way that you can go ahead and reduce any tax liabilities. Another thing that you can consider is that once you've done all of that and you still have some money left over, there is an account called a 529, and this is going to be an education account. This is going to be for those folks that have their children and they want to make sure that their money is working smarter, not harder. So you could put that money aside and let it go ahead and accrue over time. Now, I will say that most states that have an income tax allow either a deduction from income or a state tax credit for the 529 plan contributions. That may be another great option for you to go ahead and reduce your tax liability, or to find some ways to ease the burden of having so much taken out from your overall income.
Thank you so much for listening and allowing me to be part of your financial journey. As a thank you for tuning in, I'm offering you first access to special tools and information. Simply subscribe to my newsletter found on my website at millsknowsbills.com, where you can find my free budget setting tool, workshops, and so much more. You can also connect with me on social. I have Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest. All links are available in the show notes. I appreciate you tuning in and spreading the love. Thank you for all the positive comments on social, and you know I love seeing your 5-star reviews as well. Always remember, mo money, no problems. I'll see you next time.